Unknown number flashed across my phone screen at 10:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. The woman's voice was shaking when she asked, "Are you Sarah Mitchell? Are you sleeping with my husband?" In that moment, with those 11 words, my entire world, the man I loved, the future I'd planned, the person I thought I was, shattered into pieces I would never be able to put back together the same way. But to understand how I ended up on that phone call, listening to a stranger describe my boyfriend's real life, the wife, the 2 children, the house they shared, the family vacations I'd never heard about, I need to take you back 18 months. Back to when I met David at that conference in Portland. Back when I thought I'd finally found someone honest after my divorce. Back when I believed everything he told me. I was 32 years old and had been single for 2 years following a painful divorce from my college sweetheart. We'd married too young, grown apart, and ended things amicably but sadly. After that, I'd thrown myself into my career as a marketing director, dated occasionally but nothing serious, and had honestly started to wonder if I'd ever feel that spark again. My best friend Jenna kept telling me I was too picky, too guarded, too afraid to let anyone in. Maybe she was right. Then I attended a digital marketing conference in Portland in March 2 years ago. I wasn't even supposed to go. My colleague had the flu and I took her spot last minute. I remember feeling annoyed about the disruption to my schedule, about having to prepare a presentation with only 3 days' notice. I had no idea that trip would change everything. David was the keynote speaker on the second day. He talked about innovative social media strategies with this infectious enthusiasm that made even the driest statistics seem fascinating. He was 40 years old, tall, with salt and pepper hair and these warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. After his talk, during the networking lunch, he approached my table. "Mind if I join you? I'm trying to escape the corporate sponsors who want to pitch me their services," he said with a conspiratorial grin. We talked for 2 hours. He was the director of marketing for a tech startup in Seattle, about 3 hours from my home in Eugene, Oregon. He was funny, self-deprecating, genuinely interested in my work. He asked thoughtful questions about my career path and shared stories about his own professional journey. When I mentioned I was divorced, he said he'd never been married. "Came close once in my 20s, he told me, but we both realized we wanted different things. Since then, I've been so focused on building my career that serious relationships kind of fell by the wayside. I always thought there'd be time later, you know? But now I'm 40 and starting to wonder if I missed my window." There was something vulnerable in the way he said it. Something that made me want to tell him he was wrong, that it wasn't too late. We exchanged numbers, and by the time the conference ended, we'd had dinner together twice. The chemistry was undeniable. "I'd like to see you again," he said as we stood outside my hotel the last night. "I know Seattle and Eugene aren't exactly next door, but I travel a lot for work. I could come down to Eugene. Or maybe you could come up to Seattle sometime." I should have been more cautious. I should have taken things slower. But it had been so long since I'd felt this kind of connection with someone. Said yes. For the first 3 months it was like a dream. David came to Eugene every 2 weeks, always staying at a nice hotel downtown. He said he had an early flight out the next morning, or client meetings, or various work obligations that made more sense for him to get a hotel room rather than stay at my apartment. At the time it seemed considerate, not wanting to impose, giving me my space, keeping things casual but consistent. He would arrive Friday evening, and we'd have dinner at one of Eugene's restaurants, walk along the river, talk for hours about everything and nothing. Saturday would be lazy mornings in his hotel room, exploring the city together, or hiking if the weather was nice. Sunday morning he'd have to leave. It became our routine, and I looked forward to those weekends with an intensity that surprised me. "I'm falling for you," he told me one Saturday night in June, as we sat on the riverbank watching the sunset. "I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Maybe ever." My heart soared. "I'm falling for you too." He kissed me then, soft and sweet, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is the person I'm supposed to be with. The universe is finally giving me my second chance at love. By summer, I'd met some of his work colleagues when I visited Seattle. We had dinner with Tom and his girlfriend at a waterfront restaurant. Everything seemed normal. David introduced me as his girlfriend. Tom made jokes about David finally settling down. It all felt legitimate, real, progressing the way relationships should. "I wish we could see each other more often," I said one night in late July. We were lying in his hotel bed, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. "Me too. But my travel schedule is so unpredictable right now. The startup is in a critical growth phase. I'm having to manage clients up and down the West Coast. It's exhausting." He kissed my forehead. "But you make it worthwhile. Coming here, seeing you, it's the best part of my week." I believed him completely. I had no reason not to. Looking back now, I can see the red flags so clearly they might as well have been neon signs flashing in my face. But when you're falling in love, when someone is saying and doing all the right things, you don't look for problems. You accept the explanations. You trust. God, how I trusted. The first sign I ignored was his phone behavior. David was always careful with his phone. Almost too careful. He never left it unattended. If he went to the bathroom, the phone went with him. If we were watching a movie and it rang, he'd glance at the screen and either ignore the call or step out to take it. "Work thing," he'd always say. The joys of being always on in the tech industry seemed reasonable. I worked in marketing too. I understood demanding clients and odd-hour calls. When my phone rang during our time together, I'd sometimes take the calls too. So why would his behavior be any different? But there was something about the way he angled his screen away from me when he checked messages. The way his body language would stiffen slightly if a notification came through while we were close together. The second red flag was our limited social media connection. David had Facebook and LinkedIn, but his presence was minimal. His Facebook showed a few photos, professional headshots, some conference pictures, a hiking photo or two. No personal life, no family photos, no friend gatherings. His last post was from 6 months before we met. "I'm just not that active on social media," he explained when I mentioned it. "I see so much of it for work that the last thing I want is to curate my personal life online. It all feels so performative, you know." I actually found it refreshing. My ex-husband had been obsessed with social media, posting everything, and it had always made me uncomfortable. So David's minimal digital footprint seemed like a sign of maturity, of being more interested in living life than broadcasting it. I sent him a friend request anyway, after we'd been dating for 2 months. He accepted it, but he never posted anything new, never tagged me in anything, never even liked my posts. When I tagged him in a photo of us at a winery, he liked it but didn't comment. A week later when I checked, I couldn't find the photo on his timeline. I convinced myself I must have made it privacy restricted by accident. The third sign was his adamant refusal to let me visit his apartment in Seattle. Every time I suggested it, he had an excuse ready. "I'm actually between apartments right now," he said in August. "My lease is up and I'm looking for a new place. I'm basically living out of boxes. It's embarrassing. Let me get settled somewhere nice and then I'll have you over properly." A month later. "The new place needs so much work. The previous tenant left it in terrible shape. I'm slowly fixing it up, but it's not ready for guests yet." October. "Work's been insane. I've barely been at the apartment. It's a disaster. I promise, once I have a free weekend to clean and organize, you'll be my first guest." Each excuse was plausible on its own. But strung together, they should have formed a pattern. They should have made me question why, after 8 months of dating, I'd never seen where he lived. But I was in love. I was understanding. I was patient. I told myself it wasn't about hiding anything. He was just particular about his space, probably a little insecure about it. Some people are like that. The fourth red flag was bigger, but I explained it away like all the others. It was Thanksgiving weekend, and we'd made plans for him to come to Eugene. It would be our first holiday together. I was excited, nervous about introducing him to my family who would be visiting. But 3 days before Thanksgiving, he called with disappointment heavy in his voice. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. My mother's not doing well. She had a fall and I need to go to San Diego to be with her and my sister. I feel terrible about missing Thanksgiving with you. Oh my God, David, don't apologize. Of course you need to be with your family. Is your mom okay? She'll be all right, just shaken up. She's 75 and getting more fragile. My sister's there but I need to help. He paused. I'll miss you so much. I was really looking forward to meeting your family. They'll understand. Family comes first. Please send your mom my best wishes for a quick recovery. I spent Thanksgiving answering my family's questions about why my new boyfriend wasn't there, explaining the situation, assuring them they'd meet him soon. My mom looked skeptical but didn't push. My sister Jenna, however, pulled me aside later. Something feels off about this guy, she said. I can't put my finger on it, but why haven't we met him yet? Why does he always stay in hotels? Why haven't you been to his place? He's between apartments. He travels a lot. His schedule is complicated. Even as I said it, I heard how defensive I sounded. I'm just saying be careful. You're falling hard for someone we know almost nothing about. I was annoyed at her, which I now recognize was because part of me knew she was right. But I pushed that knowing down deep and focused on how understanding David had been about my divorce, how patient, how consistent in his affection. Those were the things that mattered, I told myself. Not logistics. The fifth sign appeared in December. I'd suggested we go away together for New Year's Eve. Maybe Portland or the coast, somewhere we could both drive to and spend a few days without the usual time constraints. His response was immediate and firm. I can't do New Year's, babe. I always spend it with my college friends. We've had this tradition for 20 years. We rent a cabin, just the guys, it's our annual reconnection. I don't want to be that guy who abandons his friends because he has a girlfriend. Sounded reasonable. I appreciated loyalty to friendships. I told him I understood, that I'd spend New Year's with my own friends. But deep down, a small voice whispered, after 9 months together, you're not even invited to meet these supposedly important people in his life. I silenced that voice with rationalization. Men need their guy time. It's healthy to maintain separate friendships. I didn't want to be the clingy girlfriend who demanded all his time. The sixth red flag came in late January, a full year into our relationship. I'd been thinking about our future, about how this long-distance arrangement couldn't last forever. One of us would need to relocate, or we'd need to find some compromise. I brought it up gently one Saturday morning. David, I've been thinking about us. About the future. I love what we have, but I want more. I want to be able to see you more than 2 weekends a month. I want to build a life together, not just have these isolated pockets of time. He pulled me close, kissed my hair. I want that too. But right now with the startup I can't make any big moves. We're in a crucial growth phase. Maybe in another year, when things stabilize, we can revisit this conversation. Another year. The phrase hung in the air. By then we'd have been together for 2 years, and I still wouldn't have seen his apartment, met his friends beyond that one dinner, integrated our lives in any meaningful way. But I nodded against his chest and told myself patience was a virtue. The seventh sign, this one I almost caught. It was February, and we were having one of our Eugene weekends. I'd made us dinner at my apartment for once instead of going out. David's phone rang while we were eating. He glanced at the screen, his face tightening almost imperceptibly, and declined the call. Everything okay? Yes. Yeah, just a client. I'll call them back later. 5 minutes later it rang again. Same response, same tight expression. The third time I said, if it's urgent you can take it. I don't mind. It's not urgent, he said, but his jaw was clenched. Just someone who doesn't understand boundaries. 20 minutes after dinner, while I was cleaning up, his phone rang yet again. This time he answered it, but he walked out onto my balcony, sliding the door firmly shut behind him. Through the glass I could see his body language. Tense, agitated, one hand running through his hair repeatedly. The call lasted maybe 3 minutes. When he came back in, he looked stressed. Everything all right? Asked again. Just a difficult client situation I've been dealing with. Sorry about that. It's resolved now. He changed the subject immediately, asking about my work project, and I let it drop. But later, after he'd fallen asleep, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't mean to look. I wasn't that person, didn't snoop, respected privacy. But it was right there, lighting up in the darkroom, and I saw the name. Kim. And the preview of the message. Please just talk to me. The kids are asking about. The screen went dark before I could read the rest. Kids. Who was Kim? A client. An ex. My heart raced, but I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe Kim was a client with kids who needed marketing for a children's product. Maybe it was about David's niece and nephew. Maybe it was nothing. I almost asked him about it the next morning. The question was right there on my tongue. But he was already packing to leave, kissing me goodbye, telling me he loved me and couldn't wait to see me in 2 weeks. The moment passed. I let it go. That decision, to stay quiet, to not push, would haunt me for months afterward. By March, we'd been together for a year. David sent me flowers at work with a card that read, "1 year down, forever to go. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." My co-workers oohed and awed. I posted a photo of the bouquet on Instagram with a heart emoji. I felt like the luckiest woman alive. But the signs kept coming, accumulating like snow on a roof, waiting for the weight to become too much. The 8th sign was his increasing unavailability between our visits. We used to text throughout the day, call each other before bed most nights. But that spring, the communication became more sporadic. He'd disappear for hours, sometimes a full day, before responding to messages. "Sorry, crazy day at work," became his standard excuse. In meetings all day. Phone died and didn't realize it. Client emergency. When I tried to call, it often went to voicemail. He'd text back later. "Sorry, can't talk right now. We'll call you tonight." Then the night call wouldn't come until 11 p.m. or midnight, or sometimes not at all, followed by an apologetic message the next morning. I should have been angrier. I should have demanded better. But I'd convinced myself this was what modern dating looked like, especially long distance. Everyone was busy. Technology made us expect constant access, but that wasn't realistic or fair. I was being mature, understanding, not needy. These were the things I told myself to explain away my growing unease. The 9th red flag came in April. I decided to surprise David by driving up to Seattle on a weekend when we didn't have plans. I'd been working on a big presentation and finished it early. On impulse, I texted him Friday afternoon. "Surprise! Just finished early. I'm going to drive up tonight. Can I finally see your apartment? We could have the whole weekend together." I was grinning as I sent it, already imagining his excitement. But the response, when it came 30 minutes later, was cold water. "Oh no, babe, this weekend won't work. I'm actually out of town for a work conference in Sacramento. I'm so sorry. I wish I'd known earlier. We could have planned something." Rain check. Sacramento. A work conference I'd never heard about. I felt foolish for not checking first, but also confused. Wouldn't he have mentioned a work trip? We'd talked on Wednesday. He'd said nothing about traveling. Called him. It went to voicemail. I tried to push down the suspicion that was rising in my chest like bile. He called back an hour later. "Hey, sorry, just got out of a session. About this weekend. You didn't mention a conference," I said, trying to keep my voice light, not accusatory. "It came up last minute. Literally found out on Thursday. I should have told you, but honestly it's just a boring work thing. I didn't think it was worth mentioning. Are you upset? Was I upset? Was I being unreasonable? No, I guess not. I just miss you. I wanted to see you. I miss you too. Next weekend, I promise. We'll make up for it." But next weekend he canceled too. His mother again, he said. Another fall, possibly more serious this time. He needed to go back to San Diego. The 10th sign should have been the final one. It was May, and I was scrolling through Facebook during a work break. I wasn't even looking for anything specific. But then I saw a photo shared by Tom, David's colleague, the one I'd met for dinner that one time in Seattle. It was a group photo from what looked like a company party. And there was David, his arm around a woman I'd never seen before. She was leaning into him, her hand on his chest, both of them laughing at something off camera. The caption read, "Great night celebrating the team. Special shout out to the power couples keeping our startup thriving." Power couples, plural. My finger hovered over the photo, zooming in on David and this unknown woman. They looked comfortable together, intimate. The way she was touching him, the way he was smiling down at her. It made something crack in my chest. I screenshot the photo and texted it to David. "Who is this?" 3 hours passed before he responded. 3 hours during which I spiraled into increasing panic and suspicion. When his call finally came, he sounded exasperated. "Sarah, that's Melissa from accounting. We were all at a team party, people were taking photos, she'd had a few drinks and was being overly friendly. There's nothing there." Tom's caption was stupid. He was making a joke about the whole team being like a work family. "She has her hand on your chest." For 5 seconds while someone took a photo. "You're reading way too much into this." Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, I've never been to one of your company events. I've never met your friends beyond that one dinner. I've never seen your apartment. And now there's a photo of you looking very cozy with a woman I've never even heard you mention. Sarah. His voice was firm now, with an edge of anger. "Are you seriously accusing me of something? After everything we've been to each other. I've been patient with your trust issues after your divorce, but this is too much. You're being paranoid." And there was the trump card. My divorce. My trust issues. My paranoia. Suddenly I was the problem. I was the one being unreasonable. I was the one who needed to be more understanding, more trusting, more patient. "I'm sorry," I heard myself say, even though I wasn't sure I was wrong. "You're right. Just miss you. I want to feel more connected to your life. And we will get there. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Said yes. But the seed of doubt, once planted, was impossible to completely uproot. June came and with it our anniversary dinner. David came to Eugene and took me to the nicest restaurant in town. He gave me a necklace, a delicate silver chain with a small diamond pendant. It was beautiful and thoughtful, and I cried when he clasped it around my neck. "I love you," he said, looking into my eyes with such sincerity. "I know this year has been complicated with the distance and my crazy schedule, but I want you to know that you're the most important person in my life. I'm committed to us, Sarah. Completely." I believed him. Or I wanted to believe him so badly that I convinced myself I did. The doubt was still there, humming beneath the surface, but I covered it with hope and love and desperate optimism. July passed in its usual pattern. 2 weekends together, sporadic communication between. But something had shifted in me. I found myself paying closer attention, noticing things I'd dismissed before. Like how he never wanted to take photos together anymore. Earlier in our relationship, we'd taken tons of selfies, documented our dates. But lately, when I'd try to capture a moment, he'd deflect, "I'm not photogenic today." Or, "Let's just enjoy the moment without recording it." Or how his work conferences and family emergencies seemed to always fall on major holidays or weekends when we'd made special plans. Or how he'd started mentioning vague future plans, someday when we live together or when we finally get married, without ever making concrete steps toward those futures. It was like he was keeping me on a hook, giving me just enough promise to stay, but never enough commitment to actually build a life together. August. We'd been together for 17 months. I was 33, thinking seriously about my future, about whether I wanted kids, about whether this relationship was going anywhere. I tried to have that conversation with David. "Where do you see us in a year?" I asked over dinner at his hotel. He'd come down to Eugene again, the same routine we'd fallen into since the beginning. He reached across the table, took my hand. "Together. Happy. More settled in our careers so we can focus on the next chapter." What does that next chapter look like? Home together. Maybe kids if that's what you want. I can see all of it with you, Sarah. When? Question hung between us. When would the long distance end? When would I meet his family? When would any of this become real instead of existing in this strange limbo of weekend visits and promises? Soon, he said. I promise. Let me get through this next product launch at work, and then we can start making real plans. It was the most specific timeline he'd ever given me, so I held on to it. Just a few more months, I told myself. Then everything would change. But September came and nothing changed. The product launched. David said it was a huge success. But the conversation about our future never happened again. Whenever I tried to bring it up, he'd kiss me and say, "Soon, babe. Promise. Let's just enjoy what we have right now." I was starting to feel crazy. Like I was asking for too much. Like wanting to progress in a relationship after a year and a half was unreasonable. My friends started asking fewer questions about David because they could see the strain on my face when I tried to explain why we were still doing the same long-distance routine with no end in sight. Maybe he's not the settling down type, my friend Rachel suggested gently over drinks one night in late September. Maybe what you have is all he's capable of giving. But he talks about marriage. About a future together. Talking isn't the same as doing. She squeezed my hand. I'm not saying dump him. I'm just saying, pay attention to actions, not words. I went home that night and lay awake for hours, David's words and actions playing through my mind like a film reel. The discrepancies were there. I'd been seeing them all along but hadn't wanted to acknowledge the pattern they formed. October 15th, Tuesday night. I was at home working late on a client proposal, my laptop open on the coffee table, a glass of wine beside me. David and I had texted earlier. Brief messages about our days, a heart emoji, the usual. He said he was working late too. I wasn't expecting to hear from him again until morning. My phone rang at 10:47 p.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, probably spam, a robocall. But something made me pick up. Hello. Is this Sarah Mitchell? A woman's voice. Shaking but trying to stay controlled. Yes, who is this? My name is Kim. Kim Harrison. Oz. Breath. Are you sleeping with my husband? The world tilted. Everything in my peripheral vision went blurry. The only thing in focus was my phone, pressed against my ear, and this stranger's voice asking me a question that made no sense. What? Who is your husband? David Harrison. He's 42 years old, works for Tech Vision Solutions in Seattle. Salt and pepper hair, brown eyes. Do you know him? David Harrison. I'd never heard his last name with that woman's voice attached to it. In my mind he was just David. David who was 40, not 42. David who said he'd never been married, who I'd been in love with for 18 months. Yes, I know David. But he's not married. He told me. He told you he was single. Her voice cracked. He told you he'd never been married. Maybe that his work keeps him busy. That he travels a lot. That he has an elderly mother who needs him sometimes. Each sentence felt like a physical blow. How did she know? How did she know exactly what he'd told me? How did you? Because he's done this before. And I finally figured out he was doing it again. I found your number in his phone records. Hours of calls over the past year and a half. Texts constantly, though he's smart enough to delete them. Hotel charges in Eugene, Oregon. Restaurant receipts for two. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. You're his wife. For 15 years. We have 2 children. Ella is 11. Marcus is 8. We live in Bellevue. In a house David comes home to every night. The apartment he told you he's between. It doesn't exist. He lives with me. With our kids. In our home. No. The word came out as a whisper. No, he wouldn't. We've been together for 18 months. No. I found a card you sent him for your 1-year anniversary. He'd hidden it in his car, but I found it when I was cleaning. I was going to be sick. I ran to the bathroom, the phone still clutched in my hand, but nothing came up. Just dry heaves and the sound of Kim's patient breathing on the other end of the line. "I'm sorry," she said when I came back. "I know this is a shock. I know he made you believe you were the only one. But you need to know the truth. You need to know what kind of man you've been with. Tell me." My voice didn't sound like my own. "Tell me everything." And she did. Kim told me about their marriage. How they'd met in their 20s, married at 27, bought a house, had kids. How David had always been a good provider but had started pulling away emotionally about 5 years ago. How she'd suspected affairs before but never had proof. How he'd become an expert at covering his tracks, at maintaining his double life. The work conferences. Those were weekends with you. The elderly mother in San Diego. His mother is 75 but perfectly healthy and lives in Ohio. The college friend cabin trips. He was with you. Or maybe someone else. I don't even know anymore. Someone else. I felt the bile rise again. You might not be the only one. I've found evidence of at least 2 other women over the past 5 years. Short affairs, a few months each. But you've lasted longer than the others. Which is why I knew I had to tell you. 'Cause you love him. I can tell from your messages. And you deserve to know the truth. Why are you telling me this? Yes. Why not just divorce him? Why call me? Her laugh was bitter. Because I want you to know what you helped him do. I want you to feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling right now. My children are downstairs watching TV. Completely unaware that their father is a liar who has been betraying our family for years. Ella asked me yesterday why Daddy's always on his phone. Marcus asked why Daddy doesn't play with him anymore. You're part of that. You're part of my children's pain, even if you didn't know it. The guilt hit me like a physical force. I didn't know. I swear to God I had no idea. I believe you. But it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change that my husband chose hotels with you over bedtime stories with his kids. It doesn't change that the money he spent on your anniversary necklace was money from our joint account. It doesn't change any of it. We stayed on the phone for almost 2 hours. Kim showed me things through texts and emails. Photos of their family, wedding pictures, social media posts David had hidden from me with privacy settings. She sent me a screenshot of his Facebook profile as she saw it. Full of family photos, posts about his kids, check-ins at places in Seattle I'd never heard him mention. The profile of a married family man living a completely different life than the one he'd shown me. "What are you going to do?" finally asked. "I don't know yet. Part of me wants to kick him out tonight. Part of me wants to protect my kids from the trauma of their parents splitting up. Part of me still loves the man I thought he was." He paused. "What about you?" "I don't know either." "He's with you right now, isn't he? That's why he's not home yet." He texted me at 9 saying he had to work late. I looked at the time, 12:43 a.m. "No, I'm alone. He's in Seattle. We're not. We don't see each other until weekends." "Right. The every other weekend schedule. The one that conveniently allows him to be a weekend father to our kids. He's very good at time management, my husband." The way she said "my husband" made something fierce rise in my chest. He wasn't mine. He'd never been mine. I'd been the fool, the other woman, the person on the side. Everything I'd thought we had was built on lies. "I'm sorry," I said again. "I'm so sorry. If I had known." "You would have what? Ended it immediately? Or would you have believed his excuses? His promises that he was leaving me? Because that's what he tells them. The other women. Eventually, he tells them he's leaving his wife. But he never does." "I need to go," I said, because I was going to break down and I didn't want to do it while she was listening. "I need to process this. Will you tell him I called you?" "Yes." "Good. Maybe hearing it from you will finally make him face what he's done." She sighed. "Or maybe he'll just add you to the list of women he's lied to and move on to the next one. I don't know anymore. I used to think I knew him. Now I realize I never did." After we hung up, I sat in my dark living room for I don't know how long. My mind was blank and racing at the same time. Every memory of the past 18 months played back in a new, sickening context. Every "I love you" was a lie. Every promise of a future together was manipulation. Every touch was betrayal. Not just to me but to Kim, to those children I'd never known existed. I thought about Ella, 11 years old, asking why her daddy was always on his phone. She was asking about me. About the texts he was sending me while she tried to tell him about her day. I thought about Marcus, 8 years old, wondering why his father didn't play with him anymore. Because David was saving his energy for our weekend dates, our romantic dinners, our lazy mornings in hotel rooms. I had helped destroy a family. I'd been an instrument in the betrayal of a woman who'd done nothing wrong except trust her husband. And I hadn't even known I was doing it. At 2 a.m. I called David. It rang 4 times before he answered. His voice thick with sleep. "Sarah. Babe, what's wrong? Are you okay? Your wife called me tonight." Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, "What?" "Kim. Your wife of 15 years. The mother of your 2 children. She called me and told me everything." More silence. I could hear him breathing, could almost feel him scrambling for the right words, the right excuse, the right lie. "Sarah, I can explain." "Don't." The word came out sharp, fierce. "Don't you dare try to explain this away. Don't tell me it's complicated. Don't tell me you were going to tell me. Don't insult me with more lies. It's not what you think." I laughed, a horrible sound even to my own ears. "It's exactly what I think. You're married. You have children. You've been living a double life for our entire relationship. You've been lying to me every single day for 18 months. Which part am I misunderstanding?" "I love you." His voice cracked. "That was never a lie. What we have is real. What we have is nothing. What we have is built on lies. You don't love me, David. You love having a secret life. You love the ego boost of juggling multiple women. You love the thrill of getting away with it. But you don't love me. You can't love someone and do this to them." "Sarah, please. Me explain. Me see you. We can talk about this in person. So you can manipulate me in person. So you can touch me and kiss me and make me doubt what I know is true." "Well, I'm done." "We're done. Don't say that. We can work through this. Kim and I. Our marriage has been over for years. We're only together for the kids. I've been trying to find the right time to leave, but it's complicated. You have to understand. I understand that you're a liar. I understand that you've been sleeping in bed with your wife while texting me goodnight. I understand that you've been at your kids' soccer games while telling me you're at work conferences. I understand that every word out of your mouth is poison. That's not fair." "Fair?" My voice rose. "You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that Kim has spent 15 years married to a man who cheats on her repeatedly? Is it fair that your children have a father who values his affairs more than their childhood? Is it fair that you let me fall in love with you knowing I was falling in love with a fiction? I never meant to hurt you. But you did. You destroyed me. And the worst part is, I destroyed Kim without even knowing it. I helped you betray your family. Every text I sent, every weekend we spent together, every time I told you I loved you. I was participating in the demolition of that woman's life. And you let me. You let me believe I was building something beautiful with you when really I was just a convenient side piece. Don't call yourself that. Why not? That's what I am. That's what you made me. The other woman. The fool. The person who trusted you and got betrayed." He was crying now. I could hear it in his breathing. "I'm sorry. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to find out like this. How did you want me to find out? Or were you planning to keep this going indefinitely? Another year of hotel rooms and lies. 2 years. 5. When were you going to tell me the truth?" "I don't know. That's the first honest thing you've said all night." Took a breath. "I don't want to hear from you again. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up in Eugene. We're done. This, whatever this was, is over." "Sarah." I hung up. Then I blocked his number. Then I blocked him on every social media platform. Then I sat on my bathroom floor and cried until I threw up, until my throat was raw, until I had nothing left inside me but emptiness. The next few days were a blur. I called in sick to work, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. When I did sleep, I had nightmares. David's face morphing into a stranger's, Kim's voice asking me why I'd stolen her husband, children I'd never met staring at me with accusation in their eyes. Jenna came over when I finally answered her worried texts. She held me while I told her everything, her face cycling through shock, anger, and sympathy. "That fucking bastard," she said. "I knew something was wrong. I knew it. But I never imagined. I should have seen it. All the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. Don't do that. Don't blame yourself. He's a professional liar. This is what he does. You're not the first, and you probably won't be the last." That thought made me feel worse, not better. There might be someone else right now. Kim said I've lasted longer than the others. What if he's already started with someone new? Then she'll find out the truth eventually, just like you did. You can't save everyone from him, Sarah. You can only save yourself. But saving myself felt impossible. Because it wasn't just the betrayal I was dealing with. It was the guilt. The crushing, suffocating guilt of what I'd unknowingly done to Kim and her children. 3 days after Kim's call, I texted her. "I'm sorry. For everything." She responded an hour later. "I know. Me too." A week after that she called me. "Can we meet? I know it's a weird request, but I think I need to see you. Face to face. Talk to the woman who's been living half of my husband's life." We met at a coffee shop halfway between Eugene and Seattle. It was the most surreal experience of my life. Kim was beautiful. Dark hair, warm eyes, a sad smile. She looked exhausted. "Thank you for coming," she said as we sat down with our coffees. "I wasn't sure you'd actually want to see me." "I wasn't sure either. But I need closure. And I think maybe you do too." She studied me for a moment. "You really didn't know." "I swear. If I'd had any idea, any suspicion that he was married, I never would have." "I believe you. You're not the villain here. He is." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned it toward me. It was a family photo. Kim, David, and 2 beautiful children, all smiling at the camera. This was taken 3 months ago. At Ella's birthday party. 6 hours after he took this photo. He drove to Eugene to see you. I looked at the photo and felt my chest cave in. Those kids. Those innocent kids whose father was a monster. I'm so sorry. I don't know how many times I can say it, but I am. I'm so deeply sorry. I know. And I'm sorry too. Sorry that he used you. Sorry that you fell in love with a ghost. Sorry that we're both victims of the same terrible man. She put her phone away. I'm divorcing him. I told him 2 days ago. He's been staying in a hotel, ironically, while we figure out the logistics. How are the kids? Confused. Angry. They don't know the full truth yet. Just that mommy and daddy are having problems. I'll tell them more when they're ready. When I figure out how to explain that their father is not who they thought he was. We talked for 2 hours. It was cathartic and painful and strange. We weren't friends, we couldn't be. But we were connected by shared trauma, by the same man who'd betrayed us both. By the time we said goodbye, there was an odd understanding between us. "For what it's worth," Kim said as we stood to leave, "I don't think he could have fooled just anyone. You're clearly intelligent, kind, trusting. Those are good qualities. He weaponized them, but they're still good qualities. Don't let what he did make you lose those parts of yourself." I cried the entire drive back to Eugene. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Harder in some ways than my divorce because at least that had been honest. My ex-husband and I had grown apart, but we'd never lied to each other. This betrayal felt different, deeper, more personal. David tried to contact me through email, through new phone numbers I'd block as soon as I realized it was him, through mutual acquaintances who didn't know the full story. His messages were always the same. "I love you. I made a mistake. I want to fix this. We can start over." I never responded. There was nothing left to say. My therapist, who I started seeing in November, helped me understand something important. You didn't do anything wrong. You were lied to. You were manipulated. The guilt you feel is misplaced. You're not responsible for his choices or their consequences. But Kim's pain is not your fault. It's his fault. He's the one who made vows to her. He's the one who betrayed his family. You were betrayed too. Don't let him make you the villain of this story when you're actually a victim. Took months for me to start believing that. Months of therapy, of long talks with friends and family, of journaling and crying and slowly, painfully, healing. By spring, a year after the phone call that shattered my world, I was doing better. Not great, but better. I'd learned things about myself. How I'd ignored red flags because I was desperate to make the relationship work. How I'd prioritized his needs over my own. How I'd settled for crumbs of attention when I deserved a feast. I went on a few dates, but nothing serious. I wasn't ready. Maybe I wouldn't be ready for a long time. And that was okay. Kim reached out occasionally. Brief texts checking in, sharing her own healing journey. She'd been in therapy too. The divorce was finalized. The kids were adjusting. She'd started dating someone new. A colleague who'd been transparent from day one about his life, his past, his intentions. I'm learning to trust again, she wrote in May. It's terrifying. But I refuse to let what David did turn me into someone bitter and closed off. I still believe in love. Just not with liars. I wrote back. I'm trying to get to that place too. Some days are better than others. Her response. That's all any of us can do. One day at a time. I heard through mutual acquaintances that David had moved to Los Angeles. New job, new city, fresh start. Part of me wondered if there was a new woman there too. Someone who didn't know about Kim, about me, about the trail of broken hearts he'd left behind. Part of me wanted to warn her, whoever she was. But I couldn't save everyone. I could only save myself. It's been 18 months now since Kim's phone call. 3 years since I met David at that conference in Portland. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. I still have the necklace he gave me for our anniversary. I haven't worn it since that night, but I haven't thrown it away either. It sits in a drawer, a reminder of what I learned. That beautiful gifts can come with poison, that pretty words can hide ugly truths, that love without honesty isn't love at all. I've learned to trust my instincts now. When something feels off, I don't rationalize it away. Ask questions. Push for answers. I'm not afraid to walk away if those answers don't satisfy me. My boundaries are stronger. My standards are higher. My tolerance for bullshit is non-existent. I've also learned to forgive myself. I was Kim's unwitting accomplice in her pain, but I was also David's victim. Both things can be true. I can feel guilty about the role I played while also acknowledging that I didn't choose that role. It was forced on me through deception. The other day I was talking to Jenna about all of this. About what I've learned, how I've grown, how I'm different now than I was 3 years ago. Do you regret it? She asked. Meeting him. The whole thing. I thought about it for a long time before answering. I regret the pain. I regret what Kim and her kids went through. I regret the time I wasted on someone who didn't deserve it. But I don't regret the lessons. I don't regret becoming someone who trusts herself more than she trusts pretty words and empty promises. I don't regret learning that I'm stronger than I thought I was. Would you do it again? Knowing what you know now? No. But I'd do it differently. I'd ask harder questions. I'd demand more. I'd pay attention to the red flags instead of painting them green in my mind. I smiled, sad but genuine. And I'd never, ever accept less than I deserve again. That night, alone in my apartment, the same apartment where I took that devastating phone call 18 months ago, I looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. The woman staring back was older, sadder, but also wiser and stronger. She'd been broken and had put herself back together, not perfectly but honestly. The cracks were visible, but they were held together with something more durable than blind trust. With self-awareness. With hard-won wisdom. with the knowledge that she could survive the unsurvivable. I thought about Kim's words from our coffee shop meeting. Don't let what he did make you lose those parts of yourself. My capacity to love, to trust, to believe in goodness. Those things had been damaged but not destroyed. They were still there, just more cautious now. More selective. More aware of their own worth. If I could go back and tell my 32-year-old self anything as she sat at that conference in Portland, as David approached her table with that charming smile, I'd say, trust yourself more than you trust him. Your instincts are smarter than your heart. And remember, someone who really loves you will never make you feel crazy for asking questions, will never make you rationalize their behavior, will never keep you separate from their real life. But I can't go back. None of us can. We can only move forward, carrying our scars like badges of survival. To anyone reading this who sees themselves in my story, who's ignored red flags or explained away suspicious behavior or settled for less because they're afraid of losing what they have, please listen, you're not crazy. Your instincts are trying to protect you. And you deserve someone who makes you feel secure, not someone who makes you feel like you're asking for too much when you ask for basic honesty. If someone can't introduce you to their life after months of dating, there's a reason. If someone keeps you separate from their family and friends, there's a reason. If someone's phone behavior makes you uncomfortable, there's a reason. If someone's explanations never quite add up, there's a reason. And that reason is never good. You deserve to be someone's priority, not their secret. You deserve transparency, not explanations. You deserve a partner whose life you're welcomed into, not kept outside of. You deserve to feel secure in your relationship, not constantly anxious and uncertain. And if you find yourself in the position I was in, unknowingly the other woman, please know that it's not your fault. You were lied to. You were manipulated. The shame belongs to the person who lied, not to you for believing them. Be kind to yourself as you heal from the double betrayal of being lied to and unknowingly participating in someone else's pain. I still believe in love. That might seem naive after everything I've been through, but I refuse to let one terrible man take that from me. I believe that honest, authentic, wholehearted love exists. I believe that there are people out there who will choose transparency over deception, who will welcome you into their lives instead of keeping you in the shadows, who will make you feel cherished instead of confused. I just know now that I won't accept anything less. And neither should you. The woman I was 3 years ago would have stayed. She would have believed his excuses. She would have convinced herself that the red flags were just paranoia, that the signs were just coincidences, that the lies were just misunderstandings. She would have twisted herself into knots trying to make sense of the senseless, trying to make the relationship work even as it destroyed her. But the woman I am now, she walks away. She trusts herself. She knows her worth. She refuses to be anyone's secret or second choice. She'd rather be alone than be lied to. She'd rather have no love than false love. And that transformation, painful as it was, might be the greatest gift David ever gave me. Not because he meant to, but because his betrayal forced me to become someone stronger, someone smarter, someone who would never again mistake pretty words for real love. So to Kim, wherever you are, thank you for calling me that night. Thank you for having the courage to tell me the truth even though it hurt us both. Thank you for helping me see what I'd been too in love to see on my own. I hope you're healing. I hope you're happy. I hope you're finding the authentic love we both deserve. And to David, I don't wish you ill. I don't waste energy on anger toward you anymore. I simply hope that someday you'll stop running from yourself long enough to face what you've done. I hope you'll stop weaponizing love and start earning it honestly. I hope you'll become someone your children can be proud of instead of someone they'll eventually have to heal from. But mostly, I hope you'll leave other women alone until you can be honest with them. We deserve better than what you have to offer. We all do. As for me, I'm still healing, still learning, still growing. The journey isn't over. But I'm walking it with my eyes open now, with boundaries intact, with my self-respect restored. And that's more valuable than any relationship built on lies could ever be. I was the other woman without knowing it. Until his wife called me. And while I wish that call had never been necessary, while I wish I'd seen the truth on my own, I'm grateful for where it led me. To self-knowledge. To strength. To the unshakable understanding that I am enough, all by myself. And I never need to accept less than I deserve just to avoid being alone. Because being alone with integrity is infinitely better than being with someone who makes you doubt your own reality. Being alone with self-respect is infinitely better than being with someone who disrespects you with every lie. Being alone with hope for something real is infinitely better than being with someone who offers only illusions. I was the other woman. But I'm not anymore. Now I'm just me, flawed, healing, wiser, stronger. And that's exactly who I need to be.